Ezra was a remarkable man who lived long ago. He played a pivotal role in Jewish history. Imagine a time when your people were far from their homeland. This was the reality for the Jewish people during the exile in Babylon. Ezra, a devoted priest and scholar, emerged as a beacon of hope. He led his people on a journey of spiritual renewal and restoration. Ezra's story is one of courage, faith, and unwavering commitment to God. He reminds us of the power of one person to make a difference. His life teaches us that even in the darkest of times, hope can emerge. Ezra's story is an inspiration for all who seek to rebuild their lives and reconnect with their heritage. His journey from Babylon to Jerusalem was fraught with challenges, yet Ezra's unwavering faith in God guided his every step. He led his people with wisdom and compassion. Ezra helped them rediscover their identity and rebuild their lives. For the Jewish people, exile in Babylon was a time of profound sadness. They were far from their homeland, Jerusalem. Their beloved temple, the center of their faith, lay in ruins. The exile was a time of deep spiritual and emotional turmoil. The Jewish people clung to their faith and traditions. They yearned for the day they could return to their homeland. Prophets offered messages of hope, reminding them of God's faithfulness. Despite the hardships, the Jewish people never lost sight of their identity or their faith. This period of exile tested their resilience and strengthened their resolve. They held on to the belief that God would one day restore their fortunes. The exile became a defining period in Jewish history. It shaped their identity and fueled their longing for a return to their homeland. Ezra was a descendant of Aaron, the first high priest of Israel. He dedicated his life to studying and teaching the law of Moses. As a scribe, Ezra possessed a deep understanding of God's word. He was known for his wisdom, piety, and commitment to righteousness. Ezra lived in Babylon, but his heart yearned for Jerusalem. He longed to see the restoration of his people and the rebuilding of the temple. Ezra believed that the key to their restoration lay in a return to God's law. He felt a divine calling to return to Jerusalem and lead his people back to God. Ezra's passion for the law and his love for his people ignited a fire within him. He was ready to embark on a challenging but ultimately rewarding mission. With the permission of the Persian king Artaxerxes, Ezra led a group of exiles back to Jerusalem. The journey was long and arduous, filled with dangers and uncertainties. Yet Ezra and his fellow travelers were sustained by their faith. They knew that God was with them, guiding their steps. Imagine the anticipation in their hearts as they drew closer to Jerusalem. They had only heard stories of their homeland from their parents and grandparents. Now they were about to witness its reality. The journey was not just about returning to a physical location, it was about returning to their spiritual roots. It was about reclaiming their identity as God's chosen people. Upon arriving in Jerusalem, Ezra and his fellow exiles faced numerous challenges. The city lay in ruins, a shadow of its former glory. Foreign influences had seeped into Jewish life and practice. Ezra was heartbroken by what he saw. He realized that the return to Jerusalem was only the first step. The real challenge lay in rebuilding their lives and renewing their commitment to God. The people had strayed from the law during the exile. Ezra knew that their future depended on their obedience to God. He was determined to guide his people back to righteousness. He understood that true restoration involved both the physical rebuilding of their city and the spiritual rebuilding of their lives. Ezra gathered the people in Jerusalem and read aloud from the book of the law. He explained the words of God with clarity and passion. The people listened intently, their hearts stirred by his words. Many wept as they realized how far they had strayed from God's commandments. Ezra's public reading of the law was a watershed moment in their history. It ignited a spiritual revival among the people. They recognized their failings and expressed deep remorse for their actions. Ezra's unwavering commitment to God's word inspired them to return to a life of obedience. They were ready to renew their covenant with God and rebuild their lives according to his law. This marked the beginning of a period of spiritual renewal and national restoration. Inspired by Ezra's leadership and the rediscovery of the law, the people began to rebuild their lives. They committed to following God's commandments. The rebuilding of the temple commenced with renewed vigor. The walls of Jerusalem were restored, providing security and unity. Ezra's commitment to God's law had a profound impact. It led to a renewed sense of national identity. His story reminds us that there is always hope for renewal.